You are about to enter the courtroom of Judge
Terena.
The people are real. The cases are real. The rulings are final. This is Judge
Terena. Hey, hi, and hello. Before we get on with this video, a brief word from our producers. Off to you, Terena. Disclaimer, I do not have any valid credentials in psychology, mediation, or anything like that. I'm just very good at conflict resolution, I'm an empath, and I love tea. Now back to our regularly scheduled show. On today's episode of Judge Terena, we're going to be looking at posts from the popular subreddit, Am I the A-hole, to determine whether or not these posters actually are. By the way, I love Reddit. I don't care what anyone else says. All my friends make fun of me because I like Reddit, but wouldn't you rather spend your time reading instead of literally scrolling through Instagram 3 hours straight when you can actually learn information from Reddit and read about people's problems? We've been new.
As Queen Skinny Legend Versace boots the house.
One of my favorite subreddits is the Am I the A-hole subreddit, where people post their situations, their problems, and they ask the general public for truth, brutal honesty, and sometimes a reality check. Today we're going to be looking at a couple of posts and giving these people exactly what they want, the unwarranted opinion of a random girl from the internet to decide whether or not they are the a-holes.
As Queen.
And in similar fashion to Judge Judy, we'll be wearing our judge attire, aka my graduation gown. Let's get started. In the first case that we're dealing with today, it is about a couple in their 20s and the fight for food. This man and this woman are in a relationship and they're both around the same age in their early 20s. The male, aka the original poster, the person who posted this on Reddit, he's telling Reddit that after work he always goes and buys food. And whenever he buys food, his girlfriend always has to have the first bite of whatever he orders. He would always ask her if she would want something and she would say no. So when he gets home, she goes straight for that first bite of his meal. She does not let him eat first, and whenever he asks her if she wants something, she always says no. Or whenever he says, can I save you some for later, she says no. So he's tried different solutions, but none of them seem to work because she always just wants that first bite. Whenever he tries to buy the same thing for her, she just eats a couple of bites and then throws the whole thing away. What he's resorted to doing is he just buys the food and he eats it all in his car before he goes in the house. But what ends up happening is the girlfriend finds out that he's been hiding this food in his car and he's like secretly eating it in his car before he goes in, and she gets mad. He asks Reddit, is he the a-hole for not sharing with her and for sneaking it and eating it in his car? In my opinion, he is not the a-hole. First of all, this annoys me on so many levels because I hate sharing my food with other people, especially when someone gets to eat my food before I even eat my food and I pay for it. So yeah, in this situation, he pays for his food, right? He doesn't even get to take the first bite. That would annoy me so much, literally. Food is something I take very personally.
I love you.
And if I were him, I would be so annoyed. My dad actually does this to me all the time. It's not as bad as this. It's not the first bite. So whenever I come home with leftovers, I have in mind that, oh, I'm gonna save these for a meal for the next day, right? But whenever I come home, my dad's always eyeing me like, hey, what you got? He doesn't say it, but I know he's thinking it. So when I go to my room to shower and, get ready for bed, my dad ends up eating it. Or he eats it for breakfast in the morning before I wake up. So he either eats it as a late night snack or eats it for breakfast. My leftovers. Isn't that the most horrible thing that you've ever heard in your life? My close friends know this because I always complain to them like, oh my gosh, I was saving my delicious meal from the last night to eat for today, and turns out when I went to go heat it up and prepare my food for lunch, it's gone. So I have to make something else for lunch and I don't get to enjoy my leftovers that I saved. As you can tell, I'm very, very passionate about not letting other people eat my food. So what we've resorted to in my household is you have to put your name on your food or else someone's gonna eat it. This is honestly my biggest trigger and I cannot stand it. But back to the Reddit posts, I'd say, sis, you do you, bro. Eat in your car, don't let your girlfriend eat it. And most of all, I don't know why your girlfriend is controlling you like this. Just tell her. Side note, a lot of these posts that are posted on this subreddit mainly just need active and open communication. Like if someone is going over your boundaries, just tell them. For example, in this Reddit post, what he can do is just be honest with his girlfriend and tell her, I don't like when you eat my food and I buy it with my own money and I'm so hungry after work. I deserve to eat my food without your interruption. and maybe he'll be nice and he'll save her some, but he should be strict with his boundaries and not let his girlfriend push him over like that and take the first bite of his food after a long days of work. He bought it, he deserves to eat his food uninterrupted. So now on to our second case of the day. This one is about coffee carts and entitled people. Let me set the scene for you here. The original poster frequents a coffee cart that is on the premises of a restaurant. It seems like these two are the same, but OP, the original poster, says that the coffee from the coffee cart is much better than the coffee from the restaurant. The coffee cart's hours are from 8 to 3, and OP usually comes at around 2:50 to 3 o'clock, aka 10 minutes before closing time or exactly at closing time. The barista, who OP is pretty familiar with, sees OP jump into the line for the coffee cart along with a group behind him. She tells OP and the group that they are closed and they can go inside to the restaurant for the coffee. But OP reasons with us and tells us that, hey, they jumped into the line exactly at 3 or, a couple seconds before it hit 3 o'clock. So technically the cart was not closed yet when they jumped into the line. They still got 1 minute of closing. OP tells us their reasons for not going to the restaurant, that they are very COVID conscious and they don't want to risk it by going into the restaurant. OP tells us that usually the barista is very friendly with them, always chats, and sometimes OP even asks them for a free treat after the barista has locked up. And there was one incident where OP asked the barista for free treats and she didn't give them to OP, but OP says that it's okay because now the barista remembers to offer them free treats. So back to the situation. OP is now at the front of the line at the coffee cart, and the barista seems a bit off and tells OP, like, hey, I asked you to go into the restaurant, we're closed. OP says that, they're COVID conscious and they don't want to risk going into the restaurant, and the barista ends up making it for them. But OP tells us that the barista seems kind of off and not as friendly as she usually is. The order was finished around 3:05, so OP says, it's only 5 minutes after they would have been closed. Doesn't seem like a big deal to me. And in their post, OP tries to reason with us as to why the barista might be feeling off. Maybe they would have not given OP the cold shoulder if there wasn't a group of people behind them, or if OP was the only one waiting. And now, with all the facts in the case, it is time to give the judgment. Let's see. I think there are many factors that play into this case. We can look at it from both sides. I don't know if you've ever worked in a customer service position, but sometimes, it's very demanding with customers. Sometimes you have really nice customers. Sometimes you have really mean customers. Sometimes you have entitled customers who think that they can do whatever they want. On the other hand, as OP, I understand if, you don't want to go into a restaurant because you're very COVID conscious. Good for you, maintaining that kind of protocol during a pandemic, which we are inevitably still in. There's both sides to this, but ultimately, considering the additional details that, OP loves the coffee, but OP usually comes at around 2:50 to 3 o'clock, aka closing time. And OP says, oh yeah, the barista, now she remembers to give me the treat. They just seem a little bit entitled and aware of how they are affecting the barista. I guess I would have to say that my judgment for this case, OP is the a-hole here. Sorry. Like I said, OP frequently comes at closing time. I remember when I used to work in a retail job and I always had to close, I would get so annoyed at people who would say like, no, please let me in. Or they come in like 1 minute before we close the doors. They're like, no, like I'm gonna be quick, I promise. And they spend so long loitering around the store, or they're just not conscious that the employees also have to go home and also have to clean up. It takes more time because they're not getting out. The employees can't do their job, can't clean up properly, can't, they got things to do. So for this example, OP is not considerate of the barista's time because, yeah, sure, to OP, 5 minutes might mean nothing, but to the barista, what if she had other extenuating circumstances? She had to pick someone up, pick like her kid up. I don't know if she has a kid. She has a deadline to hit. She has to go home on time to do something. There are various other circumstances in which she has to leave on time, and basically OP is a repeat offender of coming exactly before closing and getting a coffee right before they're about to close. OP is just a hint of entitled. OP needs to respect the hours posted and respect other people's time and know that not everyone can accommodate them. Sometimes you gotta be harsh and say, no, we're closed, sorry, like I'm not gonna serve you. We get it that OP's a regular, but just because they're a regular doesn't mean that the barista likes them. And you can already see the red flags in the story. The barista tells OP and the group behind them to go inside to get the coffee from the restaurant. The group behind OP goes in to the restaurant, but OP does not. OP continues to stay in the line. That is my reasoning behind that judgment. So let us go into our third case of the day. Let me set the scene for you as per usual. I think this one might be my favorite out of the bunch because it is so, once again, it involves some people who are out of their mind and not in touch with how others are feeling, and they have no disregard for other people. So what can I say? We love a messy, juicy drama post on Reddit. We love messy, and not the soccer player. So in this case, it is about a couple in their mid-20s. They have been married for 3 years and have been together for 5 years, and the wife is now pregnant with a baby. Yay! The in-laws and her side, everyone is happy for her. She's got a baby. So a few nights before the post, the wife, who in this story is the OP, she tells us that she was getting ready to head to bed when her husband reminds her to do her nightly routine, which is check that all the lights in the house that he turned on are turned off before they go to bed. And wifey tells us, yeah, sometimes he's just a little lazy, and usually every night I go around and I check the whole house to make sure that all the lights are turned off because I turn them off, but my husband, of course, he doesn't. So she wasn't feeling well and she asked him to do it because he's just standing there doing nothing. As per usual, men are useless. He says no to checking all the lights, and he says, this is what is expected of you. Nothing's gonna change even though you're pregnant. Wifey gets hurt, but she does a stupid light routine anyway because she doesn't want to bicker with him. She comes back to bed, and here's where it starts. Husband starts going on a long-winded, unhinged rant about how pregnancy is not going to change any of her responsibilities. She still has to cook, clean, and do her chores. If she can't handle these things, she's not going to be a good mother. OP mentions that he wasn't yelling, but he was talking down to her and making her feel small. This unhinged rant of her husband's goes on for 30 minutes, and she says, well, are you gonna help me with these chores? And he gets defensive and he says, no, I work hard to provide for you and the children. OP tells us that she is unemployed because her job makes less than her husband, so she is a full-time student and a mom. He ends his long-winded rant and says that it is a mother's job to push through, and if he helped her out, she wouldn't be a good mother. Wifey starts to get real mad at him, and she tells him, I wish I knew this before I was pregnant with your baby. So after she tells him this, the husband starts to cry. Why is he crying? And then he leaves the house and goes to his parents' house.
Why are you running?
His family starts to call OP and tells her that if she doesn't apologize right away, he is not going to come back. And this is where OP is asking us if she is the a-hole or not for telling her husband this.
Finish him.
If you've got social intelligence or social awareness, empathy, or at least you are a decent human being, you would know that this judgment is already a no-brainer. OP in this situation is... what is the judgment? Not the a-hole. First of all, what is this? The 1950s? Get this sexism out of here. Second of all, there are just too many red flags here that you can already tell from reading the story. Her husband is outrageous and he's out of his mind. What? Like, what is he thinking? First of all, with the light situation, OP should not be babying her husband like this and turning off all his light. Come on, sis, what are you? His mother? I get that you can love your husband and you want to help him out, but lights? Seriously? Why can't the husband just turn it off? It takes 1 second. Why does he need to wait until his wife does her nightly routine and turns them all off? Sir, please put in the bare minimum. Thank you. So another point for the story is I also don't like the way the husband's family is enabling the husband. Why are they calling up the wife and telling her that she needs to apologize? For what? Huh? She's just telling the truth. She's just saying she wishes she would have known that he would be like this, aka would not help out with any of the chores, would not help her through any part of her pregnancy before she had his kid, which is so valid. If you're carrying another human inside your stomach for 9 months, you deserve at least some help around the house. You deserve pampering. You deserve the most, sis. And if your stupid husband is not going to help you in any way, leave him. Leave him and take your baby. This husband is basically emitting such sexist behavior, it just shows that he has no care for his wife. And I bet you that it'll be even worse postpartum after she has the baby. He's not going to want to help her at all. And you know, newborn babies are a big responsibility. They're very demanding. They're a baby. She's not the a-hole, but her husband definitely is one. Also, why was he crying? I still don't get it. Nothing happened to him. Makes no sense. So that finally concludes today's segment of Judge Terena. Thank you for tuning in. See you next week. Court is dismissed. Thank you.